Matt Hall and Derek Young here from the Ford Center in beautiful Frisco, Texas, right? Beautiful?
Beautiful.
It's been really good. For Big 12 Conference Media Days, Day 2. And, of course, Derek, this is the day that Kansas State, Coach Bill Snyder, Alex Delton, Skylar Thompson, Dalton Reisner, and, of course, Colby Moore spoke to the media. Let's talk first about what Coach Snyder talked about at the podium in front of, the entire media. Was there anything that stood out to you as interesting or you want to talk about? Or you want me to steal the thunder and talk about myself?
I always talk about you, but maybe I asked him about the red shirt rule actually to the side of the podium and how he would approach that or if he would utilize it at all. It doesn't seem like they absolutely know. His worry at this point is that they'll play a true freshman just to play a true freshman because of the rule. They can because you have up to 4 games. And maybe you're taking valuable reps away from a number 2 that you might need if your number 1 were to go down later in the season, which I don't know if anyone was asking Bill Snyder to do that specifically, because I think you would the true freshmen that you would play in this scenario are probably the guys really close to that number 2 line. So.
I think it's a good idea, actually. Credit to you to start with the kind of the sidebar stuff with him, because everyone saw the transcript and read the deal about Snyder up front. But so for me, something you've reported this offseason has been the possibility that Josh Rivas could be starting for challenging for a starting job at a guard spot, and Bill Snyder confirmed as much as that, said he had a chance to be a number 1, when they open up the season. Dalton Reisner also praised that guy tremendously. I think he's the one guy who's got a good shot, I think, of anyone on the roster really surprising and earning a spot on this team as far as a starting role.
And I think it might be likely at this point, like some of the stuff we've heard is that he actually might own one of the starting positions at this time. I think we've heard a couple different things, if it's a left guard.
Right, a little bit both sides, really.
Or if it's a right guard. Yeah, I think he's pushing both probably at this point. Also, something that Coach Snyder told me when I asked him about the offensive line as well is he has 8 guys he feels like he could put in the starting 5 right now and feel comfortable with.
I think that's a great point. Reisner said the same. Of course, talked about Nick Kaltmeyer had a nice bowl game in the Cactus Bowl and how he could start. I think it has to be encouraging if you're a Kansas State fan or somebody watching this team to know that the unit that has 5 starters back has competition and could have a new starter despite having a guy who started the entire season still on the roster.
Yeah, I don't think that – let's put it this way. Some people are going to worry that these starters are being pushed by other guys because maybe it means they took a step back or, anything else. But I think we're seeing it because I think they're getting deeper and more quality on the offensive line right now. And that's without even Justin Eichmann, who at some point they think is going to start.
That's absolutely right. I think – another big topic today, of course, is the coordinators, new coordinators, both on the offensive side with Andre Coleman, defense with Blake Seiler. That question was asked a lot today. Didn't get anything that we heard today that really signified you would see giant changes on those side of the balls, on either side of the ball, at least from what I heard from those guys.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us expect it to be a wholesale change, and I think that's what someone hoped or maybe what some people think what happens with the coordinator change. But these coordinator changes are promotions within the staff. If there's going to be changes, it's going to be maybe how you call a game, your certain strategy in certain situations. Those could change, but at the same time, I think you're getting into a point where the changes just aren't going to be that vast. The way Andre Coleman's going to want this Kansas State offense to look is going to be in some ways similar to Dana Dimble because they both coach and work for Bill Snyder. That's who they cut their teeth for. Now, Andre Coleman might use a few pages of that playbook that Dana Dimble never did.
Another big topic, of course, probably the biggest topic today was quarterback. K-State uniquely, compared to the rest of the teams in this league, brought both Skylar Thompson and Alex Delton here today. What did you think of that decision, and then what did you take away from all the quarterback discussion here today?
Before today, I thought that decision was questionable. No, not that it was a terrible decision. I just didn't know what good can actually come of it, and maybe there might be some bad that could come of it. But like Bill Snyder, I think he said to John Kurtz on K-Man, John Kurtz tweeted it out that nothing that they're going to experience today is going to be any difficult than what they'll encounter in terms of decisions during the game, which is, it's a solid point. If they can't handle this, they're probably not going to be able to handle a game. And I think that it was probably a good experience, a good test for them. But I think that at this point they're both getting a little exhausted about
the questions,
and having to answer that same thing because they don't have the answers right now either.
Just, I guess, to me, an interesting aside is two coaches here talked about this being an area where they can test their quarterbacks. Bill Snyder, of course, and Gary Patterson said the same with Sean Robinson yesterday. So I guess it's an interesting opportunity they've taken to do this. Tell me if I'm crazy. It's okay if you can. This video is pretty casual.
Yeah.
I leave this thinking it's more likely than ever that K-State plays two quarterbacks extensively. I just
even without an injury.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think they'll still pick a guy and go with it, but I don't hear anybody talking about the importance of picking one guy and going with that guy.
They've definitely diverted from that. I remember,
Right.
I think it was early in the spring or before spring, maybe it was signed in February, one of those press conferences that Bill Snyder held, the first of the offseason, I think, as he was pretty stern in the fact that he wanted to go with one quarterback and one voice and everything. It seems like he's not taking as hard of a stance on that line of thinking.
Right. I want to give Coach Snyder some credit. I thought he was pretty funny today over there. I don't know what you got from him in your time, but I asked him about Nick Leonard's at tight end. He told me it didn't matter because they don't throw to the tight end anyway, which I think was really self-aware and clever on his part. I thought it was a fun day with Bill Snyder and the Wildcats.
Yeah, he had, off to our sidebar we had with him, someone asked, what his line of, what made them decide, to only make tweaks to their offense, even though they had new offensive coordinators instead of, these big changes. And Bill Snyder's like, because I'm still the coach.
I mean, and that's very true. We did this yesterday. I'm putting you on the spot right now, so I'm going to ramble and give you some time to think. Yesterday, you put a piece on the site talking about what's something we learned or took away from this or found interesting for teams other than K-State. So the same kind of thought today, whether it's a quote you found entertaining or interesting. What about another team today do you leave this with that maybe you didn't know or at least you found interesting?
It's going to be weird. I don't know if I learned anything or definitely found it interesting. Mike Gundy obviously was asked about the recruiting thing with his athletic director Holder criticizing his recruiting despite all the 10-win seasons, which I'd probably on Team Gundy with that argument because if you're winning that much, who cares? And he got that question today. I thought he handled the question well at the press conference. Said it would be unfair to maybe kind of divert the attention from what matters today, which I thought he handled it well. But after that, he was the only coach that did not go over to that other thing and have a sidebar and talk to the media. He left that and he left the complete facility.
He was done after that, apparently.
Did he show up?
He did show up. He's over there right now. You can go ask him about it right now and see if he's still mad.
I think I don't know if that's a guy I want to ask questions to right
now. For me, and it's similar to you, I don't know if I learned this. I just found it entertaining or intriguing. But I loved Dana Holgerson's answer to the expectations. You hear this question all the time, what do you think about the expectations? How are you going to handle them? He said, we love having them. I mean, you want to be good enough to have expectations. We're happy you guys are talking about us. I'm sure I've heard it somewhere before, but I've never heard a coach go and look at it that way. And I wonder if that can instill confidence in your program to say, of course, we still have to go earn it. We already know that. But it's great they're talking about us. It's great that Will Greer's drawing the biggest crowd over there. I thought it was neat how much he embraced the attention West Virginia's getting at this thing.
Yeah, publicity can be a good thing. And, not all coaches feel that way. Obviously, Bill Snyder would disagree. And I thought it was funny. Dana Holgerson also made it a point to say he wanted no business of coaching when he's 79.
Correct, he did. He said he will not be doing it. He didn't know if he'd be alive at 79, Dana Holgerson said. Hope he is. He's a great guy, it seems like. So we've had a lot of fun here. And the last point I think I'll make, and you kind of just hit it, so I want to steal it from you and say it, is getting to be here and seeing the 10 different coaches speak. It is fascinating to see the huge range of answers to the same questions. Whether it's the transfer issue, uniforms, recruiting, whatever, that all these coaches can have some measure of success at their schools. And with so many times with differing beliefs on all these big issues.
There's a lot of different ways to win, in the Big 12, college football in general. And I think for the most part, these coaches all respect each other at the same time. But there's definitely different ways to win. And I would say that some of it does seem to be age-driven.
Absolutely. You can see a big difference in those answers depending whether it's Lincoln Riley or Bill Snyder or somebody, in the middle. But really appreciate your work here, Derek, from the Ford Center here in Frisco. For Derek, for Grant Flanders, who's behind the camera right now and has done a great job, for myself, thanks for, consuming all of our coverage at K-StateOnline from Big 12 Media Days here in Frisco. Jeff Martin would tell you to tell your friends. So can you say that?
KSO, tell your friends.
KSO.